to the latest update, IS update. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us. My name is Patrick Hastings. I'm the Acting Chief Executive for the ISC. We have a really exciting instalment for you today, but before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we're meeting today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'm joining you today from Turrbal and Yagara land in the area now known as Brisbane. As I said, we've got quite an exciting and quite a jam-packed sort of session for you today. You will notice down on the bottom you do have the option of using the Q&A function. I really do encourage you at any point in time during the presentation to put your questions in. Our presenters will try and answer them either during their presentation or in the Q&A session at the end, but please do make sure you are putting your Q&As in, sorry, your questions in. In terms of the agenda today, first up is our Acting General Manager of Ratings and Delivery, Michael Collin, then followed by Ty Momberg, our Technical Manager, talking about our technical work plan and IS Essentials. Followed by Monique Eisenheim, our Head of Market Development, talking about the work we're currently doing in both the water and energy sectors. Hayley Greaves, Head of Learning and Capability, will then give you an update on our training business and what's coming and what exciting things we're working on at the moment, as well as the opportunities for you to get involved. And then finally, with Membership and Events, Head of Business Engagement, Andrea Macris, will give you an update on all things membership and events. As I said, please don't be shy with your questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you get a lot of benefit out of today. I will catch you soon. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael. I'm the General Manager for Ratings and Delivery. And first, I'd like to just take a quick chat about some of the updates for the Ratings and Delivery team. So we've had a very stable team over the last 12 months or so, with very few people coming and going. We have unfortunately lost our project manager from New Zealand, who took up another opportunity. And we are very close to appointing somebody to take that role to help support the New Zealand market, which is such an exciting opportunity for them and for us. We're looking forward to working with our preferred candidate. The only other change we've had is it's exciting news that one of our team is going on parental leave shortly. So that role will be filled internally, which is another very exciting thing, the fact that we can have somebody leave and fill it internally with somebody in an acting role until they come back. So that's really exciting. And like we did say as well, we also said, so I'm in an acting role, and Owen Buckley is also in an acting role. He's been promoted to the Chief Delivery Officer. There's a picture of our team there, which many of you will have interacted with over the time. And there's not, like I said, the nice thing is that we've had a very stable team, very strong team at the moment, which is very exciting. Moving on, so yeah, that's our team of people scattered across the country in New Zealand, which is very exciting. And then on to the next slide, please, Danielle. Our ratings delivery. So we've had some great impacts through our IS ratings over the last couple of years. So we had 41 new registrations last year. We've had 36 new registrations so far this year. Exciting news though is I guess we've had 42 certifications. So that's to the point where the projects are at the end and they're being rewarded and recognized for the fantastic work they've done across a whole range of different projects. And we do have some events coming up shortly where we will be meeting with those project teams across Australia to celebrate with them and celebrate the great results that they've done. Like many of you know, our version 2.1 ratings are now the only ratings that can be undertaken, because we have now retired version 1.2. And we've got 27 ratings that have signed up for version 2.1. There's a lot of changes in 2.1, a lot of exciting developments, and we're working hard with all of those projects to make sure that they can continue to deliver such great outcomes. IS Essentials, so one of the things we'll talk about as well is we're almost ready to launch IS Essentials into the broader market, but we've got 16 pilot projects underway across a range of industries. Overall, we still have 240 active projects. So obviously when you're talking infrastructure, Projects do take a fair period of time, so we've got 240 active projects underway at the moment. 2 of our essentials projects have been verified, so they got to the end of their life, end of their time, and they've been verified by our verifiers, and we've gone through certification, which is fantastic for them. And like I said, in February, we closed off any more registrations for version 2.1, and now any projects all registering with version. So we closed off registration for 1.2, and any new projects are registering under version 2.1. That's the end of the update for ratings and delivery. Now I'll hand you over to Ty Monberg, who's our technical manager. Thank you, Ty.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Michael. On to the next slide, please. So for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Ty Monberg. I'm the technical manager with the ISC. This is the technical team we led by Dr. Kerry Griffiths. We have Gabby and Amin, who are senior technical advisors, and Noel, who is our data analyst. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a snapshot of our current work plan and shows the 6 focus areas on the left-hand side of the slide, and some of the high priority areas that we are working on are detailed on the right. So just to step you through some of these, the first focus area is rating tools, and the development work that we're doing on the essentials tool, and also the scoping of the tool update for ops are some really good examples of this. The second focused area is support tools. We're working on a number of key developments for the materials calculator, and I have a separate slide on that a little later. The third area is data analytics and management, and we're currently working on our data analytics strategy and the work plan itself. Technical governance, that's the fourth area of focus, and the technical working groups are a really good example of this. I also have a separate slide that'll tell you about all the good work that we're doing in this space. The general tech support and management focus area, that includes things like technical investigations and TCs and CIRs. And lastly, the last focus area is the team's development and well-being, which we believe is important to call out as a focus area in itself. Thank you. Next slide, please. So now on to an update on ICE Essentials. And firstly, just a reminder that this is the new Design as Built rating tool that we've been developing for smaller projects. And for us, that means projects under $100 million. So it is developed with new users in mind as we look to broaden our market, and we're doing a lot of work trying to focus on local governments and the water and energy sectors. The tool itself is built from the 2.1 Design and As-Built technical manual, but with reduced complexity and the ability to scale. And this is probably the most important aspect of this tool. It's that ability to scale. So it can scale to match the size and the needs of specific projects. This tool is going to be our first digital rating, which is really exciting. And the tool development has been supported by the Westpac New Zealand Government Innovation Fund. I'm extremely thankful to them. As Michael mentioned, we are looking to launch this in the next few months, so please do look out for this landing. Next slide, please. As I was saying, this tool is really all about being able to scale. And one of the larger developments that we have used to enable the scalability is the materiality assessment. We've done a lot of work on this process, and that's based on feedback from those pilot projects that Michael spoke about, as well as the essentials technical group. The point is to get the rating tool to focus on the most material items for the project, so that the project can concentrate on doing those items really well. So we developed a materiality assessment process that determines the number of credits screened in based on the project's capital value. And you can see the different capital bands on the left-hand side of the slide, and the total number of credits screened in within that red box. I also wanted to be super clear in terms of language, so we're using the term screened in. That means that these credits are available to projects to be targeted or not. And so that leads us to a very possible scenario where a project that is under 20 million has only 10 credits screened in. And in theory, this project could target maybe only 3 credits to achieve a bronze rating and some really good outcomes. Next slide, please. So the next item I wanted to provide an update on is the IS Materials Calculator. We're working on a number of developments within the space. So starting with the major tool update, and this is to enable it to model both EN 15804 plus A1 and plus A2 EPDs in one consolidated calculator. And we think that this is going to be an international first. We're also working to update the New Zealand data in the back end of the calculator, making sure this data is as up to date as possible. And we're hoping to have this work completed in the next few months too. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the technical working groups are a key focus area under technical governance, and these groups have been incredibly busy over the last few years. The 6 technical working groups were started in January 2022, and they are now really well established and completing their work on a number of work plan items as detailed in the slide. So some examples of this include the work by the Planning Technical Working Group and the Essentials Technical Working Group, which have both helped shape the new rating tools that have been developed. Another example is the Proponent Technical Working Group, who have completed their work on a paper on how to contractualize an IS rating. And that's written by proponents for proponents. Maybe one last example, the Design and As-Built Technical Working Group, they are nearly complete with their work on an energy user note. The last thing to note from this is that each of the technical working groups have also provided new work plan suggestions that they're going to pick up once the existing items are complete. Next slide, please. Thank you. Technical clarifications and credit interpretation requests are a key part of our continuous improvement and tool maintenance processes. And we continue to improve the time taken to resolve the queries. And that's really evidenced by that average resolution time in the slide and that green curve going downwards. And the last update for me on the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Is a quick update on rulings. So as you can see, there's been a number of ruling registers which have been published since January 2024. There's really 2 main things to take away from this slide. The one is that we now report the rulings according to their published date rather than their endorsed date. And as this is really easier for projects to understand and track. And the other thing is just that there's a large number of rulings being published. So please do be sure to check out the latest ruling register on ICEP resources and make sure that you're up to date on these. Thanks very much. I'm now going to hand over to Monique.
Thank you, Ty. So my name is Monique. I'm looking after market development at the ISC. And 2 of our major areas that we're looking at are water and energy. So I would like to give you a bit of an update on the IS Water Advisory Group. For those of you who are not aware, this is a group that we convened last year, a group of representatives across the water sector in Australia. And we spent about a year working together as a group to, understand how we can have more impact in the water sector and achieve sustainable outcomes. And one of the outputs of this working group, which finished its work at the end of last year, was a couple of recommendations to the ISC. And I just wanted to give a bit of an update on where things are at. So you can see there the list of recommendations, as well as the priorities assigned by the group and the status as we're working through it. Without going into a lot of detail on what the recommendations are, I guess the status update here is that we're working through all of the recommendations and have indeed finalized some of them. And at the moment, this means that we've got some new resources available. So there's an IS Ratings for Water info brochure, and then very detailed parks case studies on the park's water treatment plant. Both of them are available on our website, but feel free to reach out if you would like to have a copy. The group also had a look at individual credits within the ratings tool and provided some feedback, which we're working through as part of our continuous improvement. One of the recommendations was around having an accessible tool for smaller projects, which is typically where the water projects sit, not all of them, but many. And IS Essentials, which was just covered by Ty, is one of the ways that we are enabling ratings for smaller projects. So that's happening in parallel. And that also includes a lighter version of the base case in that tool, which was one of the other recommendations. There's also a resource hub in development. As Ty mentioned, IS Essentials will be our first digital tool, and one of the features of that will be a resource hub where we can store all the materials that are relevant for specific topics or sectors, and so we'll have water-related resources live in that space once it's going online. So we'll keep working through those and then provide an update in due course when we finalize that work. And if we go to the next slide. And equally, as I said, we're also looking at increasing the impact in the energy sector. And as such, we've followed a similar model here in that we've created an IS Energy Advisory Group. And basically the purpose of this group is to enable infrastructure sustainability leadership, specifically in renewable energy, because that's obviously where we're going and where there's a lot of development and investment going. And really it's about, again, bringing a community of practice together to support the industry transitions and to provide insights and intelligence and help with capacity building, and eventually report back with recommendations both to the industry and the IFC. Next slide, please. Here's an overview of who we are as a group. So we formed end of last year, and we have a very good representation across the ecosystem. You can see the members here. It was amazing to see the amount of interest in this group. Really great turnout. We're even slightly oversubscribed, which is a good problem to have. At the same time, for those of you who may be interested in following along and being kept in the loop and potentially be involved as guest speakers or in some of the work packages that we are working through, we have a community of practice. So if you want to be part of that and be kept in the loop, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll include you on that list. And in terms of where we are, just a quick overview. So we're taking a bit of a double diamond approach where we're looking at the problem first, because that's always good before starting to work on a solution. And right now where we are is we defined the problem space and looked at what are the things that don't currently work in the renewable energy space, and also looked at what our ideal scenario would be. And then identified a few options of which roles this or actions this group could take given our joint expertise and resources. And the next step is to select those actions and create the work. And so you'll hear more about that as we proceed with that. And as I mentioned, there's still ways to get involved in the community of practice if that's something of interest. And that's it from me, and handing over to Hayley.
Thanks, Monique. I'm going to take you through today a few things that we have going live this month, and then a couple of things to keep an eye out for before the end of the financial year. So starting with our RISE Leadership Mentoring Programme, sponsored by Gamuda. This mentoring programme is now in its third year. I can see on the call, there's a few people that have previously engaged with the RISE mentorship programme. There's also a few people on the call that are currently engaged with our Women in Sustainable Construction Leadership Mentoring Programme. So the difference between the Gamuda programme and the Women in Construction programme is that the Gamuda programme is for anyone and everyone across Australia and New Zealand. So it's not location based. It is like the Women in Sustainable Construction programme, a leadership mentoring programme. It is 9 months long, starting in June. And it is fully virtual, which means you might be connected with someone on the other side of the country or potentially even in a different country. The matching is set by an algorithm in the background. So when you're completing your application form and you are sharing ways in which you would like support or ways in which you can give support, that matching is done in the background before then being sense checked by a panel before your matches are published. So we encourage you to apply if you haven't already, or complete the application form if you've started but not yet completed it. Applications do close on May the 13th, and there are opportunities to meet your mentors and mentees in person. Gamuda will be kindly hosting a few in-person events for us as well. And all information that you need on that can be found on our website. The other thing I'd like to talk about that's happening in May is the IS planning training. Can we got the next slide, please, Danielle? The IS planning training is a 5-hour training that follows on from rating skills. Just like designing as-built does follow on from rating skills, but it is focused on the version 2.1 IS planning rating tool. And you'll notice that on the right-hand side there, we have a number of tools and resources, including videos from GHD, Main Roads WA, and an introduction to the IS planning rating, as well as a couple of case studies where we've explored how Eastlink undertook the options assessment and lessons learned from the Bunbury Outer Ring Road. The core or kind of really meaty piece of the planning training is exploring the options assessment and the economic theme. And just like the design and as-built, there's an opportunity to deep dive into particular credits that you would like to explore in more detail. That course is commencing on the 22nd of May this month. As I mentioned, you must have undertaken IS rating skills, so you've got an understanding of the scheme as a whole and the process before you can then undertake IS planning. There are a few spots left on that training, and we will run it another time in 2024, but it won't be run as frequently as design and as-built. And then the third thing happening in May is IS Essentials. So as Ty has taken you through a couple of the intricacies of IS Essentials, we've developed a bit of a learning toolkit to take you to guide you through that as well. And in the next to the green icons, you can see the 5 modules that we that make up the toolkit. So starting off with overview of IS Essentials, we go through the materiality assessment, how it's done on the digital platform, and how it's ever so slightly different with the capital bands, like Ty explained. How light credits have an option for no base case and what that means. Some of the adjusted credit criteria, and we're really looking at the difference between design and as-built and essentials, and then exploring the digital platform. It is required that to undertake the IS Essentials training, you must have completed design and as-built, because these are supplementary short modules that are not facilitated, and it does require a lot of background knowledge in design and as-built. So you will be able to start registering for that later this month, and then the resources will become available from the 27th of May. There's a short quiz at the end, but it's not an ISAP exam. If you are already an ISAP, that short quiz will provide you with a certificate that you can use to demonstrate that you've completed the training. That is May, and now I just want to roll into what's coming in June. So we have been working really hard on developing a capability framework for infrastructure sustainability, and I just want to give a shout out to New South Wales Government, which this was partly funded, and the contractor working group, which was made up of 12 contracting organisations. Also a shout out to kind of everyone else that contributed to the skills survey. So if you completed the skills survey earlier this year or late last year, then you've contributed to developing the capability framework. The framework will be available in June, and it is designed to support individuals to further develop their skills and knowledge, also to identify areas for your career development, and for organisations to use as a bit of a retention and recruitment tool. It outlines business, core and technical skills, knowledge and mindset required infrastructure sustainability professionals, and it maps them across experience levels or job types, from junior and graduate through to manager level. So keep an eye out for that in mid to late June. And then finally, there might be an animation on this. Sorry, Danielle, you may want to give it another click. And one more, sorry, thank you. We have an event on Thursday, the 4th of July, which kind of celebrates all of the efforts and all of the tools that we've developed to support sustainability being recognised as a career path in construction. And again, thanking New South Wales Government, who this has been partly funded by. The report itself will include all the findings from the skills survey that I've just mentioned. It's also going to have about, I think there's 5 profiles in there, 3 of which are women in sustainable construction career profiles, 2 are industry profiles of initiatives that organisations have underway to support diversity and inclusion and sustainability skills within the industry. And then we'll also be talking about the workplace culture digital resource that we have released as well. So as soon as the invites are available for that, I encourage you to register. It is a free event and it will be in Sydney. So we'd love to have you come along to that. Just before I hand over to Andrea, I'd also like to highlight that we are recruiting for a sustainability learning partner. It is up on LinkedIn. So if you know of anyone or you're interested, please take a look. I encourage you to either apply or share it within your network. Thanks. Over to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Hayley, and thank you all for your continued attention. We will be heading into the Q&A shortly, so please do pop your questions into the Q&A widget or the box at the bottom of your screen. They can be around ratings, technical, the advisory groups, or the learning and capability that Hayley just covered there. But I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight our passionate and highly dedicated community of practice, the ISC member organisations. Our members span the full value chain of infrastructure, and we continue to derive mutual benefit from our relationships with great collaborations and capability building initiatives. The ISC's members help to shape the future of our sector, and their membership continues to be a strong signal of commitment to go beyond compliance and to strive for better outcomes by being really active drivers for positive impact. ISC members include proponents and investors, as you'll see there on the screen. We also have members from the policy and regulation space at both federal and state government level. We have members that are asset owners and operators. And on the next screen, you'll see a broad spectrum of consultants who are designing, engineering, planning and assessing, as well as their delivery partners in the construction industry. We also have a diverse range of suppliers, which you'll see on the next slide. From software solutions to waste management and from steel to soil, really diverse group, all striving to support infrastructure through their innovations, through their circular products, low carbon products, and generally more sustainable alternatives. And finally, we have a number of mutual memberships and productive relationships with aligned organisations from the not-for-profit sector, academic institutions and social enterprises as well. I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to our newest members, and for those that are building the case internally for having their own organisation join. I thought I'd quickly outline the benefits that are available, including really the opportunity to, as you'll see on the next screen, thanks, to really collaborate, network and engage across our community of practice who you just were introduced to. So there are in-person events, webinars like this one, a very broad spectrum of digital communications and publications. All these things are building towards creating collaboration and connections that are so integral. You can build your own team's capability through structured courses as well as bespoke workshops that Hayley just touched on that help individuals and teams to adopt a sustainability mindset at all levels of your organisation. As we all know, sustainability is everybody's business and a leadership capability of our time. So this is really a fundamental part of the membership value offering. There's the opportunity to join technical working groups, advisory groups, and member coalitions in order to advocate for change and really go beyond your own sphere of influence. For example, the ISC's Modern Slavery Coalition is now in its 4th year, and they're doing some really great work to support the sector to seek out and mitigate risks across their supply chains. And finally, membership continues to offer a strong signal to your stakeholders and your own staff in relation to your organisation's commitment to assured positive sustainability outcomes and impact. On the next slide here, you'll see one of the new developments from the memberships team we've delivered this year is a dedicated member resources hub. So this is a page on our website that's for members only, where they can access resources and strategies that might help them to leverage their membership, both internally and externally. So if you're a member and you'd like access or further information, please reach out to us, to your own primary member representative or to us, and we'll let you know how to go about getting access to that page. And on the next slide, I just wanted to touch on some engagement opportunities, really broadly speaking. We've got, for example, submitting your project or initiative case studies or content for inclusion on the ISC conferences and publications and through our digital channels. Next month, you'll receive notification of our annual awards program opening up for submissions. And this is a really great opportunity to be recognised for excellence in a really broad range of categories. And there are also opportunities to, of course, attend, sponsor or host events throughout the year alongside the ISC as a partner. Please get in touch with our team for further info if you're wanting to know more about those opportunities, and be sure to subscribe to the e-news. There's a pop-up window on our website. Anybody can subscribe themselves to the e-news to stay abreast of all of these opportunities as they are announced. A very quick overview of some upcoming events. Hayley just mentioned the report launch on the 4th of July. This is a snapshot of some other events happening between now and the end of 2024. So this month we have the Women in Sustainable Construction Lunch on the 7th of May, and then a couple of webinars. There's the ratings case studies webinar, one from Australia, one from New Zealand. There's also the Spotlight on Suppliers New Zealand edition at the end of this month webinar. In June, we have 3 Auckland-based events: the Modern Slavery in Infrastructure Sector breakfast event. We have the ISAP Day, and of course, we also have the certification and networking events straight after ISAP Day on that day. And then in July, we have 3 certification and networking events in New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. And then finally, in October, we have the at late October in Sydney, we will have our main annual event for the year, the ISC Connect Conference, and Gala Awards and ISAP Day. So next slide, please. Thank you. I just wanted to call out one of those new initiatives through our webinar program, Spotlight on Suppliers. So this is a webinar that happens every 2 months, and I highly encourage you all to come along. If you're a procurer or a project team leader, it's a really great opportunity to see featured 6 suppliers in each of those sessions talking about their latest innovations or offerings. So the next one is New Zealand focused, and it's on the 30th of May. So that brings us to the end of our presentations for this IS Update webinar. I'm now going to look at the questions that you've been submitting through the session, and hopefully we can answer some of those live for you now. So firstly, a shout out to Rick Walters, the esteemed IC alumni, for the questions that you have put through. I see that they've been answered, but I might actually get our team to answer those live as well, because I think it'd be valuable for us to have a look at those questions and discuss them in the context of this webinar. So Rick's asked, and this is a question that you've answered, Ty, but if you could just pop back in. Rick Walters has asked regarding the materiality assessment for IS Essentials. You've taken the pragmatic approach based on project size, which is CapEx. However, sustainability risks and opportunities don't necessarily scale directly with project size. For example, a small project can have many material sustainability issues. Is there a risk that this approach encourages missing material issues? Great question. Thank you. I will pass to you, Ty.
Yeah, really good question. And there's a couple of follow-ups. I'll try and address those too. It might be helpful, Danielle, if you don't mind, could you flick back to slide 12, please, if possible? That was the slide that had the materiality assessment. So I guess what I was trying to do in this session was just kind of give a high-level indication of what we're doing, but I didn't dive in, and maybe that has resulted in a number of questions, so I'll try to do a better job of explaining. Keep going. I think it's number 12. Thank you so much. So firstly, this is a really good question and something that we have thought about a lot and are still kind of thinking about it. And I guess the first thing to point out is that all the rating tools are on a continuous improvement journey. So the rating tools that are out in the market right now are kind of being used by the market, but at the same time, we continue getting questions, we continue thinking about them, and they go through updates as we progress our understanding, and also as the market updates. So that's the first thing I really just want to iterate. This is where we are at right now. Then maybe to do a little bit of a deeper dive. So how it works. So if you have a look at that first capital band, it's 5 to 20 million. If your project goes into that band, the first thing that happens is that there are 10 credits which are automatically always screened in. And again, just remember, screened in means that it's available, but they don't have to target them. But that's what we're saying projects should be looking at, should be thinking at. Then in addition to those, then there are the other credits. You go through your materiality assessment and you have to answer the questions. And this probably goes to Rick's second question about the water bodies. So if your project is polluting the water body, you would have to say yes to that particular question, which would mean that that credit or those, I think it's Enviro 1, would become high materiality. So that would be automatically then scoped in within your limit. So it's up to around about 15 for those smaller bands. So all those material items, or all those items, the materiality assessment, the point of it is that your project has to answer and then indicate which items are most material for your project. And then through that, those items then screen the credits in for your project to consider. At the same time, as you can see, there is an upper limit, so there might be some things which don't quite fit in. But then we do, if you look on the right-hand side of the slide, have the elective credits. So if something is super material, super relevant to you that has been screened out, projects are very welcome to choose that as an elective credit. It's available to all the projects to add that back in. Another scenario might be where a project has spent a lot of work or time on a particular item, and that has been screened out, so they can then screen that back in. Hopefully that's done a decent job of answering that question. There was one essential question about the value threshold, and I'll try respond to that too. So yes, another really good question, and we have done a bunch of thinking about it. So the question is, the IS Essentials project value threshold of 100 million. How does the static threshold account for inflation, i.e. considering the significant increases in material costs, skyrocketing fuel costs, and the need to pay more for labor? In other words, static threshold doesn't necessarily reflect project scale and size over time, so similar to Rick's video comment. Yes, again, we have done that, and it's not only that, it's also that we are we fully are aware that projects often change scope. Things come in, things go out. So we've developed a number of mechanisms to try and deal with this. At the moment, none of these are internal mechanisms. So if your project is experiencing any of these scenarios through the essentials, please do contact your PM and they can talk you through the specific mechanism that works best for your project. So hopefully those answers those.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks, Ty. I might now throw to Monique. There was a question in relation to the Energy Advisory Group regarding renewable energy stakeholders. It didn't look like there was anyone in the offshore wind space involved in the group. Given its significance, will you seek to engage with this part of the market?
Yeah, no, that's correct. And there's probably one or two other gaps. We've got a bit of a balance to strike in terms of the group size. We're at 22 at the moment, so that's almost a little bit more than is ideal. But we already have about 35 people in the broader community of practice, including offshore wind, which is great. And so as we define the work packages in more detail, we will draw on this community of practice and others that we need to deliver on those action items as we need to. So yeah, that's going to be our approach. Unfortunately, we can't have everyone.
Sure. Thank you. Great. Question in relation to the cost of IS Essentials training. Hayley or Michael, who would like to?
Yep. I'll jump in there. So the IS Essentials training, when it goes live, will be free for 4 weeks. So it will be available to anyone who is a current design as-built ISA. There will be registration rules that block anyone who is not a current ISA from undertaking IS Essentials. After those 4 weeks, there'll be a small cost attached to undertaking IS Essentials, $150. It is fully digital, so it's a case of us just recouping our costs for the build for the IS Essentials toolkit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hayley. I believe we may have answered all your questions. So unless anybody's going to sneak one in at the very last minute.
Andrea, there was just an update. I think the conference date is the 22nd to the 24th of October. That's a slight update from the slide, and the gala dinner is on the 24th. So just that's the new date.
Thank you, Monique. Yes, we will be sending out formal notification of venues and dates and times very, very soon. So just don't take my previous slide as gospel. We will send you all the complete details very, very shortly. I think that is the end of our Q&A session and therefore the end of this webinar. So there is going to be a survey that pops up for you at the conclusion of our webinar today. Please do take the time to complete that and give us your feedback. We are always looking to continually improve and make sure that these sessions are valuable for you. We really appreciate your attendance and your attention today, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic afternoon.